Now, more on sports and money. Some college sports bring in big money. The University of Texas and Ohio State each make more than $100 million a year selling tickets, media rights, clothing, more than some pro teams. It's why some college coaches make millions. So, the university makes money, the coaches make big money, the companies that sell the clothes, the TV networks, the announcers, everyone except the players. The players are supposed to be amateurs. The rules say they can get full scholarships, but no pay for their performance. And that's ridiculous, say some, because their skills are worth millions. They ought to be allowed to be paid what they're worth. So says Dr. Boyce Watkins, a professor of finance at Syracuse University. And no, they should not, says famous football coach Lou Holtz. So, Lou, why not? They're worth a lot of money. You're ripping them off.
Well, you're not really ripping them off. You're giving them an opportunity to get an education, to be able to perfect their skills. College is not about professional athletics. Now, let's remember this. You start paying an athlete, what happens to women's soccer, women's golf, men's track? Because football pays for all these sports, not only for their travel, not only for the contest, but for their athletic scholarships as well. And so you have to look at the overall gain of the entire university. Let's stop being selfish.
Boys?
Well, what I will say is that we don't even have to argue that college athletes should be paid. I think they should simply have the same labor rights that we all have as Americans. If a 9-year-old kid is a star in a blockbuster film and the film makes $1 billion, we're going to laugh if that kid gets paid with a scholarship. So effectively in the NCAA, you have the amount of money that really matches a lot of professional sports leagues. March Madness makes more money than the Super Bowl and the World Series put together. And everybody gets rich off this. This money doesn't disappear because the athletes aren't getting it. The coaches are signing major deals. Television sponsors are making lots of money. Universities are raking in the billions. Commentators are making a lot of money. I think even Coach Holtz makes a lot of money off of these athletes as well. No offense to him, of course. I have a lot of respect for him. And I think that an athlete that knows, because we know that a basketball game can't happen unless you got a basketball player. So that player, being the driving force behind the revenue, I think, should have the same labor rights as everybody else to sit down and negotiate with the university, with corporate sponsors, and get a piece of that pie.
Coach Holtz?
Doctor, let me acquaint you with a few facts of life. The most I ever made at the University of Notre Dame after 11 years was $135,000. I just think at college is to get an education. Let's remember, that's first and foremost, get an education, prepare for life, and when you go to college, it's not a 4-year decision, it's a 40-year decision, and only 1 out of 1,000 athletes, football players, are going to go on and play professional athletics.
Well, what I want to say is that, first of all, you have a situation where it's not amateur anymore. The players are, you hear coaches use language that says, you know, my players are professionals. I expect you to behave like a professional. They put pressure on these athletes like professionals, and the coach is doing that because he's making professional money. So when you got this much money on the line, and I've seen this as a university professor over the last 17 years, players don't have time to study. They're told to change their majors. At Auburn University, there was a big scandal where they were putting players in special classes where they didn't even have to go to class because they wanted to make room for them to play football. So my belief is that the NCAA should make a choice, either be completely amateur or be completely professional. Amateur means that no coach makes more than, say, $100,000 a year or $150,000. You can't make players play games on school nights. You can't make them travel and go across the country to play a game on ESPN. You allow them to be students first and athletes second, because right now that's not what system we're working in.
And right now, a lot of these superstar college athletes, maybe senior year, they're injured. They'll never make a penny in the pros.
Yeah.
They've wasted their shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Coach Holtz?
You do not go to college to go into professional athletics. I can't begin to tell you the thousands of athletes I've coached that have gone on, become doctors, lawyers, dentists, etc. And that's it. I agree with what Doctor said about there are abuses. The NCAA has a rule, though. You can only practice or be involved in football for 20 hours a week. I think that an individual should have the opportunity to go to class, have an opportunity to get an education. I think that's first and foremost.
I'm just confused by some of the attitudes and the rules. This past football season, some Ohio State players sold their championship rings and some jerseys. They said they sold them to help their families, which is okay with me. But they were suspended for 5 games. Here's quarterback Terrell Pryor.
I'd like to start off saying I'm deeply sorry about the young selfish mistakes I've made 2 years ago, and to bring down this university and bring embarrassment to myself and the coaching staff and
but it's like the guy has been ordered to grovel.
Students in Buckeye Nation mostly, and just my selfish acts was just very young and immature, and just very deeply sorry about it.
I'm truly remorseful for my actions and what I've done.
Think about what they're apologizing for: selling their own property. I mean, Coach Holtz, isn't that theirs to sell?
It is theirs to sell, but if they sold it for an abnormal price to an alumni, that is illegal. But here's something.
Well, the market determines the price.
But boy, here's something that not many people are aware of. Based on need, a football player could be on a full scholarship at a university and receive up to $4,500 in a BEOG grant. That's a basic economic opportunity grant, and that money can be used for spending money, clothes, and travel.
But he's worth
$4,500 is a lot more money than I ever had. I want to tell you, I never had $5 in my pocket when I was in college. But let's forget about it being professional, and let's get back to what Doctor says. Let's get there, get an education, do the right thing, and enforce it in that manner, but not make them professional athletes.
But one point I think that has to be remembered is that you got to look at the reality of many of these athletes. Half of the college football and college basketball players in this country actually come from poverty. So many of them don't have a father in the home. They are the primary breadwinner for their family members. And so for them to go to a university and to play in these multi-billion-dollar extravaganza games and not even be able to afford to have their parents come to the game is a little bit of an injustice. And I think also when you talk about priorities, I'm not against the idea of making education the top priority. I've always advocated for that. But the problem is that if you look at a university, let's say you have a coach that's winning 60% of his games, a pretty good win record, and 80 or 90% of his players are graduating. In many cases, that coach will be fired in favor of a coach like, say, a John Calipari, who doesn't have the best record when it comes to education, but yet he wins games. So effectively what you're saying is winning games matters to the university, not educating players. And as long as you have that asymmetry going on, you're going to have a scandal.
Well, I think NCAA stands for nannies crushing ambitious athletes, or nervous control freaks and authoritarians, but I think we're in the minority in thinking that they should be paid. Thank you, Coach Holtz and Boyce Watkins. If we had more time, I'd ask you, what do you think about the people who want to make money by fighting? Should they be allowed to compete for money?
When we return, what he does is illegal in my state. Why?
Lack of common sense. That's what it is.
Thanks to the Venture Card from Capital One, we get double miles on every